Story number 1, Shift Handoff. I got the text at 3:30 in the morning. My manager, Carol, Mike coming in at 4 instead of 6. Schedule change. Corporate. I stared at my phone for a minute, standing behind the counter with the fluorescent lights humming overhead. The truck stop was empty except for one rig idling outside, its driver asleep in the cab. Through the windows I could see freezing rain coming down in sheets, coating everything in a thin glaze of ice. It seemed odd. Mike was always punctual, always 6 on the dot. But it was the week between Christmas and New Year's, and corporate had been shuffling people around to cover vacation days. I'd worked 4 overnight shifts in a row. Maybe they'd just forgotten to tell me directly. I texted back, "Oak!" The next 30 minutes dragged. I restocked cigarettes behind the counter, wiped down the coffee station for the 3rd time that night. The smell in here was always the same. Diesel fuel tracked in on boots, burnt coffee from the pot that had been sitting since midnight, and something chemical I could never quite place. Tonight it seemed stronger. Maybe a spill outside near the pumps. At 4:05, headlights swept across the parking lot. I watched a sedan pull up near the front entrance. A man got out, collar turned up against the rain, and jogged toward the door. He was wearing a company polo, navy blue with the truck stop logo on the chest. He punched the code into the keypad. 4 beeps. The lock clicked. He knew the code. "Hey Sarah," he said, pushing the door shut behind him. Water dripped from his jacket onto the tile. "Nasty night." "Yeah," I said. He knew my name. That was fine. It was on my name tag. But still. "Carol told you I was coming early, right?" He smiled, wiping rain off his face with his sleeve. "Yeah," she texted. "Good. Corporate's been a mess this week." He walked toward the counter, glancing around the store. "Anyone else here?" "Just me. Truck driver outside, but he's sleeping." He nodded, looked at the register. "So, listen. Carol mentioned corporate pushed an update to the register system. Some new cash drop protocol. I'm supposed to verify it before my shift starts. You mind showing me real quick in the back office?" I hesitated. I hadn't heard anything about an update. But again, corporate had been chaotic. Maybe Carol forgot to mention it. "Sure," I said. I led him past the coffee station, the chemical smell even sharper back here, and unlocked the back office. It was small. Desk, filing cabinet, monitor showing the security camera feeds. He followed me in and stood just inside the doorway, between me and the exit. "So where's the memo about this?" I asked, moving toward the desk. "On the system," he said, not moving. "Carol said you'd know how to pull it up." I sat down at the desk, opened the computer. My hands felt cold. He was standing very close to the door, looking at his phone. The blue light reflected on his face. "What's the procedure you're asking about?" I said, scrolling through emails. "Nothing from corporate, nothing from Carol except the text." "Cash drops," he said. "How often you do them overnight? And the cameras." He glanced up at the monitor. "Which areas don't have coverage?" My stomach tightened. "Why would you need to know that?" I kept my voice steady. "Just what corporate wanted verified." He was still looking at his phone. His thumb moved across the screen, texting someone. "I don't see any memo," I said. "Huh." He pocketed his phone. "Maybe it didn't go through yet. Carol's probably asleep anyway." He smiled again. "No big deal. I'll just check with her later." "Okay," I said. I stood up. "I should probably finish my closing tasks before I go." "Sure." But he didn't move from the doorway. I stepped toward him. He shifted slightly, letting me pass, but I felt his eyes on my back as I walked toward the front counter. My heart was pounding now. I told myself I was being paranoid. He had the door code. He knew Carol's name. He knew my name. He was wearing the uniform. But something was wrong. I reached the counter and glanced toward the front entrance. Through the glass, past the rain, I could see the door. The lock. It was engaged. The deadbolt, locked from the inside. And the key wasn't in the lock. I looked back toward the office. He was walking slowly toward me, hands in his jacket pockets. "You locked the door," I said. "Yeah." He stopped a few feet away. "Safer, with just the 2 of us here. Where's the key?" "I've got it." He patted his pocket. "Don't worry." My hand moved under the counter. There was a silent alarm button there, red. I'd never used it. I pressed it now, held it for 3 seconds. No sound, no light, just a signal going out. "I need to check inventory," I said. "In the cooler, now!" "Yeah, it's on my closing checklist." I didn't wait for him to respond. I walked quickly toward the back of the store, past the shelves, past the drink coolers, to the walk-in in the corner. My phone was in my pocket. I pulled it out as I yanked the cooler door open. Behind me, footsteps. I stepped inside, into the cold, and slammed the door shut. There was a lock on the inside, a safety feature. I twisted it. The footsteps stopped outside the door. I stood there among the pallets of beer, my breath fogging in the air, and dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? I'm at the truck stop on I-40, mile marker 217. There's a man here. He locked the front door. I'm in the walk-in cooler. I don't know who he is. Are you injured? No, but he won't let me leave. Officers are on the way. Stay on the line. I heard the handle rattle. Once, twice, then nothing. I waited, shivering, the phone pressed to my ear. The dispatcher kept talking, asking questions, telling me to stay calm. I could hear my own heartbeat. After what felt like forever, I heard voices outside, shouting. The cooler door rattled again. "Sarah? It's the police. You can open the door." I unlocked it. 2 officers stood there, hands on their belts. Behind them, the store was empty. "He left through the back exit," one of them said. "We've got units searching the area." I stepped out, legs shaking. The front door was unlocked now, and standing just inside, looking confused and soaked from the rain, was Mike. The real Mike. "What the hell is going on?" he said. "I got here and the cops were pulling up." "You weren't supposed to be here until 6, I said. "I wasn't. It's 6:15. I'm late because of the ice." One of the officers looked at me. "You said he came at 4? "Yeah. He was wearing the uniform. He knew the door code." Mike's face went pale. "Sarah, someone stole my polo 3 days ago from my gym bag. My car was unlocked in my apartment parking lot. I filed a report." The officer pulled out his radio. I sat down on the floor, my back against the drink cooler. The chemical smell was still there. Diesel and burnt coffee and something else. They never found him. The cameras caught him leaving through the back exit at 4:43, hood up, face angled away. He'd walked into the rain and disappeared. Mike's polo turned up a week later in a dumpster 2 towns over. The key to the front door was never recovered. I still work overnights. Different location now. But sometimes, when it's quiet and I'm alone, I think about how he knew the code, how he knew Carol's name, how close he stood to the door, and I wonder how long he'd been watching before he decided to come inside. Story number 2, Jury Summons. I opened my apartment door that Thursday afternoon, expecting a package. Instead, I found a man in a dark suit holding a clipboard, standing close enough that I had to take a half step back. "Mr. Garrett," he said, glancing down at his papers. "Thomas Garrett? That's me," he nodded, flipping a page. "I'm here regarding your failure to appear for federal jury duty on November 12th. You were summoned to the Eastern District Courthouse and didn't show. That's a serious matter." I blinked at him. The hallway light was dim, as always, and his face seemed shadowed even though he was standing right in front of me. I never got any jury summons. According to our records, 3 notices were mailed to this address. He tapped the clipboard with his pen. "Certified mail. When you don't respond, we're required to follow up in person." My cats were circling my ankles, curious about the visitor. I nudged them back with my foot. I really didn't get anything. "I check my mail every day." "Sir, I understand, but that doesn't change the legal obligation." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a wallet, flipping it open to show me a badge. It happened fast, just a flash of metal and plastic, and then it was back in his pocket. "The county takes this very seriously. There's a penalty for non-compliance, but if we can verify your identity right now and process the fee, we can clear this up before it goes to warrant." Warrant? My stomach tightened. For missing jury duty? For ignoring a federal summons, yes, sir. He shifted his weight, and that's when the smell hit me. His cologne was overwhelming, sweet and chemical, filling the narrow hallway like something sprayed too many times in a closed space. It made my eyes water slightly. It's a $200 verification fee. You can pay by check or card, and I can process it right here. I've lived alone since my wife died 6 years ago. I worked for the Postal Service for 32 years. I know how mail works, and I know I never received any jury summons. But I also know how bureaucracy works. Things get lost, addresses get mixed up, and I definitely know that ignoring official notices leads to problems. Can I see that badge again? I asked. His jaw tightened, just barely. Sir, I showed you my credentials. I have 4 more stops to make this afternoon, and frankly, you're already in enough trouble. If you want to make this harder than it needs to be, I just want to see it clearly. He sighed, but he pulled the wallet out again. This time I actually looked. The badge seemed real enough, gold and official looking with an eagle emblem, but the ID card next to it was partially obscured by his thumb, and when I leaned forward to read it, he snapped the wallet shut. The fee needs to be processed today, he said. His voice had lost its patient tone. After 5 p.m., it goes to the warrant stage, and then you're looking at a court appearance and much higher penalties. My hands felt cold. Behind me, Pepper meowed, wanting dinner. It was nearly 4 o'clock. The afternoon light coming through the hallway window was already fading, that flat grey light Spokane gets in late November. I can write you a check, I said slowly, but I need to call the courthouse first, just to confirm. Sir, I am from the courthouse. I know, but I just feel better. The courthouse is closed for the day. He glanced at his watch. Administrative offices close at 3:30 on Thursdays. That's why they send us out for in-person verification. I didn't know if that was true. I couldn't remember the last time I'd had any reason to call the county courthouse, but it sounded plausible, and that was the problem. Everything he said sounded plausible. Let me just grab my checkbook, I said, starting to close the door. He put his hand on the door frame. Actually, sir, I need to come inside to process the paperwork. It's procedure. I need to verify your residence and have you sign the compliance form. I can sign it out here. It needs to be done at a table with proper documentation. He was pushing the door slightly, not hard, just steady pressure. It'll take 5 minutes. Unless you'd prefer I note that you refuse to cooperate, which will definitely trigger the warrant. The cologne smell was making me nauseous. Pepper squeezed past my legs and tried to get into the hallway, and I had to grab her, which meant taking my hand off the door. He pushed it wider. Sir, I really need to insist. That's when something in my head clicked. Maybe it was the way he said, insist. Maybe it was the cologne, too strong, like he was trying to cover something else. Maybe it was 32 years of knowing how official procedures actually work, and this wasn't it. I dropped Pepper, grabbed the door with both hands, and slammed it as hard as I could. He'd been leaning forward, and his foot was already in the gap. The door caught his shoe, and he yelled, a sharp, angry sound that didn't sound professional at all. I slammed it again, harder, and he jerked his foot back. I threw the deadbolt and the chain lock, my hand shaking so badly I almost couldn't get the chain into its slot. He started pounding on the door immediately. Mr. Garrett, you just assaulted a federal officer. Open this door right now. I backed away, nearly tripping over Pepper. My phone was on the kitchen counter. I grabbed it, and my hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. The pounding continued, hard enough that the door rattled in its frame. This is obstruction of justice. I'm calling the police right now. You're making this so much worse for yourself. I pulled up my browser and searched for the county courthouse number. Not the first result, not the sponsored link, but the actual official government website. My heart was hammering in my chest. The phone rang 4 times. The pounding continued. Spokane County Superior Court, how can I help you? I need... My voice cracked. Someone came to my apartment saying I missed jury duty. He wants money. Is that real? Sir, we don't send officers to residences for missed jury duty. If you received a legitimate summons and didn't appear, you'd get a notice in the mail. Can you give me your name? I told her. She put me on hold. The pounding had stopped, but I could hear him outside still talking, his voice muffled through the door. I couldn't make out the words. The clerk came back. Sir, I don't show any jury summons issued to your address in the past year. And I want to be very clear. We never collect fees at your door. If someone is claiming to be from the courthouse and asking for money, that's a scam. You should call the police. The hallway outside had gone quiet. I crept to the door and looked through the peephole, my breath fogging the small lens. The hallway was empty, completely empty. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead, reflecting off the worn carpet. No man in a suit, no clipboard, no overwhelming cologne smell seeping under the door anymore. I waited 30 seconds, watching. Nothing moved. I called the police. They took a report over the phone, said they'd send someone by, asked if I could describe him. I realized I couldn't, not really. Dark suit, dark hair maybe, average height. The badge had happened too fast. His face had been shadowed. All I could remember clearly was the cologne and the pressure of his hand on my door. The officer arrived 40 minutes later, took notes, checked the hallway. No sign of anyone. No other residents had reported anything. He told me I'd done the right thing by not letting him in, said there'd been similar scams in other cities, people posing as process servers or court officials. He gave me a case number and said to call if the man came back. That was 3 days ago. This morning, I went down to check my mail and found a notice taped inside the mailroom. Someone had printed it on plain paper and stuck it to the wall with masking tape. It said a resident on the 3rd floor reported seeing a man in a dark suit in the building last Thursday afternoon, walking slowly past apartment doors, photographing the numbers and the names on the mailboxes with his phone. My apartment is on the 3rd floor. My name is on my mailbox. I took the notice down and brought it upstairs. It's sitting on my kitchen table now. I keep looking at it, trying to figure out what bothers me most. Not that he was here. Not that he tried to get inside. It's that he knew my name before I opened the door. Story number 3. Fuel receipt. I found the receipt when I got back to my car around 9:30 in the evening. It was folded once and tucked under the windshield wiper on the driver's side. Just a crumpled piece of paper, the kind you get at a gas pump. I almost threw it away without looking. The parking garage was nearly empty. Level 3, where the hotel puts long-term guests. My rental car was one of maybe 6 vehicles on the entire floor. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, that electrical hum that gets louder when you're the only one around to hear it. The air smelled like humid concrete and exhaust, thick enough to taste. I unfolded the paper under the dome light. It was a fuel receipt. Handwritten across the top in blue ink was my license plate number. The exact sequence. Not close. Exact. My first thought was that someone had confused my car with theirs. It happens. Grey Nissan Altima, rental fleet standard. Maybe they'd filled up and accidentally written down the wrong plate number. But when I looked at the station name, I didn't recognize it. Somewhere called Scottsboro. I pulled out my phone and searched. 203 miles north. I'd never been there, never even heard of it. The date on the receipt was today. The timestamp said 2:15 in the afternoon. At 2:15 this afternoon, I was in a conference room on the 8th floor of a medical plaza across town, presenting quarterly sales projections to a procurement team. I hadn't left the building until after 5. I told myself it had to be a mistake. Someone wrote down the wrong plate. Maybe they transposed a number. Maybe they were tired. I do that sometimes when I'm filling out mileage logs at the end of a long drive. Your brain just autopilots. but my plate number has 3 letters and 4 digits, and they were all correct. I sat there in the driver's seat with the door still open, reading the receipt again. The handwriting was careful, neat block letters, not hurried. Whoever wrote this took their time. That's when I noticed the man in the stairwell. He was standing just inside the entrance to the stairwell, about 30 feet away. Business casual, khakis and a tucked-in polo. He wasn't moving, just standing there with his hands at his sides, looking directly at me. I felt my stomach drop. I pulled the door shut and hit the lock button. The sound echoed across the empty concrete. I put the key in the ignition but didn't start the engine yet. I was trying to decide if I was overreacting. He was just standing there. Maybe he was on a phone call, maybe he was waiting for someone, but he wasn't holding a phone. And he wasn't looking around, he was looking at me. I started the car. He started walking, not running, not hurrying, just walking with this steady, deliberate pace, straight toward my car. His face was blank, no expression, like he was crossing a parking lot to get to his own vehicle, except his path led directly to my driver's side door. I put the car in reverse, but I'd pulled in nose first, and there was a concrete barrier behind me. I'd have to back out, then pull forward to get to the exit ramp. It would take time. He was 15 feet away. I shifted into reverse and started backing up, but he adjusted his angle and kept coming. 10 feet. I could see his eyes now. He wasn't blinking. I stopped the car and put it back in park. My hands were shaking. I told myself I was being paranoid. He probably just wanted to ask a question. Maybe he thought I was someone else. Maybe he needed directions. He stopped next to my window and knocked. 3 deliberate taps with his knuckle. I cracked the window about an inch. "Can I help you? You're in my spot." His voice was flat, matter of fact. I looked around. There were no reserved signs. No painted numbers. Just empty spaces in every direction. "I don't think these are assigned. You need to move. There are plenty of other spaces. I need you to move now." He wasn't raising his voice. That was the worst part. He sounded calm, reasonable, like he was asking me to pass the salt. He stepped closer, positioning himself directly in front of my door. If I tried to open it, I'd hit him. "I'm not moving," I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a parking garage ticket. The kind you take from the machine when you enter. He held it up to the window. The handwriting on it was identical to the receipt. Same blue ink. Same careful block letters. My license plate number was written across the top. My mouth went dry. "You need to get out of the car," he said. I didn't answer. I was staring at the ticket, trying to understand what I was looking at. He'd written my plate number on his parking ticket, which meant he knew what car I was driving before he entered the garage, which meant he'd been looking for me. He tried the door handle. The lock held, but the sound jolted me out of my paralysis. I reached for my keys. There's a small canister of pepper gel on my keychain. I bought it 2 years ago after a conference in Dallas when a man followed me back to my hotel. I've never used it. I rolled the window down another 2 inches, just enough to fit the nozzle through. "Step back," I said. He didn't step back. He pulled the door handle again, harder this time, and leaned his weight against it. I pressed the button on the canister and sprayed directly into his face. He made a sound I'd never heard before, not a scream, something between a cough and a choke. His hands went to his eyes and he staggered backward, colliding with the concrete pillar behind him. I didn't wait. I threw the car into reverse and hit the gas. The tires squealed. I cranked the wheel hard to the right, but I misjudged the angle and the rear bumper clipped the barrier. The impact jolted through the frame, but I kept going, reversing over the low concrete divider that separated the rows. The undercarriage scraped, and something metal dragged beneath the car, but I cleared it and swung around toward the exit ramp. In the rearview mirror, I saw him on his knees, still clutching his face. I drove down 3 levels without stopping. My hands were locked on the wheel. I couldn't feel my fingers. At the ground level, I slowed just enough to grab a ticket from the machine, then accelerated through the gate before it fully opened. The arms snapped upward, and I was out, onto the street, into the humid Atlanta night with traffic and streetlights and people. I didn't stop driving until I reached the airport. I'm sitting in the rental return lot now, writing this on my phone while I wait for the shuttle. The car has a dent in the rear bumper and a long scrape along the undercarriage. I'll pay for the damage. I don't care. I keep thinking about the receipt. The gas station 200 miles away. The timestamp that proves I wasn't there. But someone was. Someone who knew my license plate number. Someone who knew where I was staying. I looked up my rental agreement on my phone. It lists my license plate, my hotel, and my entire travel itinerary. The company I work for uses a corporate travel system. Everything is logged. Accessible. I don't know who he was. I don't know how he got my information, but he knew where I'd be tonight, and I have no idea where else I'm supposed to be.